Welcome to another edition of The Night Shift. My name is Mike Stubbs, along with Kyle Grimard. We've got regular season games to talk about. We've got preseason games in the National Hockey League with London Knights doing things like scoring goals, setting up power play goals, getting a couple of assists. We'll talk about that. It is the first week of the preseason. And we also have a glass-breaking incident that has gone around the world on social media. Last check, I think the video is up over 400,000 views of glass raining down. A scary incident on Dale Hunter and some of the players. A piece of glass hitting Dale Hunter in the back. The league is looking at that. So we'll discuss that too. Kyle, away we go. And opening night, banners being unfurled from the rafters. I loved the way they did it because how many times have we seen banner raising malfunctions where you try and raise a banner and it gets stuck halfway up? There's always that risk. I love this. It was whoop, 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 and there they all were.
I love that it was in succession of one another. It was like, boom, Midwest Division champions, conference champions, OHL. Like it was just all in succession. I thought it was great. I think they did an incredible job with it. Obviously, the game didn't go maybe the way that the Knights wanted to, but, that's still a night that you look back on and, you get a chance to celebrate, to commemorate it because the Memorial Cup, it wasn't won at home. And yes, there were celebrations and they brought it back into the city. But having that moment, especially in the arena with the team, there's just something special about it. And the fact that they were able to do it, of course, opening night and have some of the guys come out and, Will Nichols in the sleeve and he's, fist. It was really cool to get a chance to see. And it's up there forever. So that team is officially immortalized as Memorial Cup champs.
Well, the puck dropped, and the Knights jumped out to a quick 2-0 lead on Owen Sound if you missed the game. And then I really think, and we'll hear from Rick Steadman in just a second, there is a change in what it feels like to play a certain number of minutes. And we had a lot of guys who were playing a lot more minutes at that level than they're used to. And the third period really started to show that. PJ Fagan had been given a game misconduct earlier in the game, so that knocks you down to 5D. And it's one of those things that is a fact in the game where you just need to find your wind. I remember Oliver Bonk coming back from training camp, and in the first little bit, he was simply finding his wind. That's what he was doing, and not playing as many minutes with the Philadelphia Flyers. You come back and all of a sudden, here are 22 minutes for you. You're finding that wind. So some positives around, and you're going to see a lot of the growth of players throughout. We see Cohen Bidgood make a really nice play at the blue line, and then on a 6'8" goalie, Kyle, put it in his feet, right?
That's it. That's exactly it. When goaltenders that big, the often thing is you try to get them moving, try to get them off of their stance to be able to maybe create something, and putting something in their feet. They're not 5'9", 5'10", where they're a little bit more mobile, but that's the thing now, right? Most goaltenders are a lot bigger, so you've got to find different ways to beat them, to get them off their game, and that's one of them.
And then Jackson Cover takes this pass from Maxim Sokolovsky to make it 2-0, makes a beautiful move to the net, scores his first OHL goal. And fans got an opportunity to see Max Sokolovsky, and scouts were already talking about him the very next night. And I wonder how this is going to progress as the season goes along, because at 6'8", you're going to get attention. But Kyle, the way that he will toe drag pucks and make plays, it's almost like you think, how is a guy that big making that? Wow, he just made a great play. And he does this throughout games. And now he's done it in 2 regular season games.
It's, this was the hype when, he was brought over, when he was signed to the team, that, he's a bigger guy, that he's got silk hands and he's able to maneuver and create plays for one another. And it's only 2 games in, but we're already starting to see a glimpse of what he's going to be able to offer throughout the entire season for the London Knights. And, we talked about it. It's early in the season, whether there's guys that are out for injury or guys that are at NHL training camps right now, you're going to be given a bigger opportunity to showcase what you can do at this level. And slowly but surely, we've started to see it.
Well, next up, we had the team go to Windsor to take on the Spitfires after that 3-2 overtime loss to Owen Sound. And Windsor's a great team, and this game stayed close until a goal that ended up being talked about more for what happened after the goal than the goal itself. Cole Davis is a guy who had 5 points against the Sarnia Sting the night before. Watch out for him. He enters the zone with so much speed. If you don't have your gap set against him, he can go right around you. And the Knights have done a very good job against him. He gets a shorthanded chance and he scores to make it 3-1. And there's the pivotal moment. It's a 2-1 game. There's a power play. If you can get a goal, all of a sudden it's 2-2. It's anybody's game. It doesn't go that way. Shorthanded goal the other way, but then the game stopped. And it was one of those moments, Kyle, that you didn't really know what was going on. And it seemed like something very bad may have gone on because immediately there was a stop. There wasn't a commotion at the Knights bench, but there was movement of the bench. The guys were getting off the bench and a stretcher is being wheeled out onto the ice. And the stretcher came out just a little bit and then they turned around and the stretcher went back in. At this point, it was difficult to tell for anybody in the building what had happened because there was no replay of this going on the screen in Windsor. But then you had people coming out and they had a broom and they had a shovel and they had a mop and then there were big garbage cans being brought out. And by this point, the Knights are off the bench and you're thinking, did someone get sick? What happened? The Knights players were there was some concern or whatever, but you didn't sense that there was true concern if there was a teammate who was experiencing an issue of some kind. And so everybody gets off the bench and they get out. And then you notice, hey, wait a minute, there's a pane of glass missing. And if you watch this from the front right here, if you're watching us on YouTube, you see exactly what has taken place where the glass breaks in behind London Knights head coach Dale Hunter, and then it just showers down. And it showered down largely on Alex Campo, but on some other players as well. And you see Dale pushed forward because a logo on the glass kept it from shattering completely. So we're dealing with tempered glass, which breaks into little pieces. So you don't get big dangerous shards. And everybody thinks those little pieces, oh, well, yeah, but they're very safe. Safer than shards, yes, but there are still some sharp pieces. And the other part of this is the logo at the bottom of the glass appeared to keep the glass intact. So a pretty big piece fell on Dale Hunter, enough to knock him forward. And so with that, there's a whole lot of danger there. I really think, and I'm not trying to overreact here, but I really think we got away lucky with something here because this could have been worse. What if that piece of glass that lands on Dale is sharper where it lands? You're just looking at something that the league is now looking into. The league has sent us a statement, and I'll read from the statement. It says, the league is in the process of reviewing the circumstances of Saturday's incident. We're thankful that Coach Dale Hunter, his staff, and players were unharmed. But if this was caused by banging on the glass, if it was caused by shaking the glass, you can't tell in the video what caused it. This is the kind of thing that I think you need to look at. And I'd love to see comments. If you're listening on YouTube or watching on YouTube, then put a comment in because I don't sit behind benches. I don't know whether banging the glass is something that has to be done. And I've seen all kinds of comments since, Kyle, and they have said things like, well, it's a home ice advantage and it's this and it's this. I personally, if I was sitting beside somebody banging the glass all game, I'd think it was really annoying. That's what I would think as a fan. And the other aspect is the players don't really notice. There's a lot of noise going on. There are quick shift changes. They're not paying any attention. So if you think you're bothering the players by banging the glass, I don't think you're doing the thing you think you're doing. But I'd love to know. Put the comments in as to whether or not this needs to continue, because here's my idea for this. If you sit behind either of the benches, don't touch the glass. It's pretty easy to put an usher there. And if you touch the glass, you can go sit somewhere else, or you can go watch from the concourse on a screen. You don't have to be there. That's my interpretation of this, because I feel we got away lucky. And in life, sometimes we look at tragedy and we make decisions and we make changes based on tragedy. I don't want to see tragedy, and I don't want to see anything bad happen. We got lucky here. Why not make this change right now where it's simple? You want to bang on the glass if you sit somewhere else? Okay, fine. You may cause a stoppage in play if something like this should happen again, but the odds of hurting somebody don't exist. Here, the odds of hurting somebody do exist. don't touch the glass.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fair point. I understand as a fan experience, as part of the game. Mike, when I played, my 1 year junior, you're so focused on the game at hand, and you don't notice anything outside of the sounds that are happening inside the arena. It's very seldom that you're paying attention to whatever's going on else around you. Again, it's strong plexiglass. It should be able to withstand some to a high extent of pressure and all of that. But it's the wrong angle that something happens, right? All it takes is one hit, and all of a sudden something goes wrong. So maybe that's an area where you refrain from the glass. You can still cheer, you can still chant, you can still make as much noise as you possibly want during the game, obviously to a certain extent without saying anything vulgar. But that doesn't stop you from cheering and being engaged with the game. So maybe it's something that does get looked into, especially if it happens again, and that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to talk about, let's not have this happen again, because God forbid it does. Situation happens to be a little bit worse. Like you said, there wasn't a shard of glass that luckily caught the coach or caught, any of the players, but it could have easily done that. And that's a worst case scenario where somebody really gets hurt. And if there's a way to avoid it, why not look into it?
Yeah, I mean, you can look at a lot of hypotheticals. Fortunately, the logo wasn't at the top of the glass to keep that part in check and to keep that intact, where that would have fallen. We did get a chance to talk with Dale Hunter the next day to ask him how he was doing, and here's what he said. Dale, you've seen a lot of things in the game of hockey. This one you didn't even see. Glass coming down behind you. You're okay, though?
Yeah, I'm good. I've always had a hard head.
Where did it hit you?
Well, it hit me in the back, and then it sat around my back of my head and stuff. So everybody was good. That's a great thing.
Yeah, wild to kind of see that happen in a game. What does it do to the game?
Well, you don't expect it. I've seen where players and they crash into the boards and it happens there, and it usually is going the other way. This one time it was going in. So it's unexpected, but things do happen.
Well, at least everybody's all right. Dale Hunter is always going to look at it that way and find the humor in it. And yet at the same time, I'll stand back and say this doesn't need to happen. Just keep people from touching the glass, in behind the glass. If you have any comments, again, put them into the comment section on the YouTube video. When we look ahead, the Knights are going to be playing Brampton and Erie. It's almost like they have an NCAA type schedule to begin, except you're not playing the same team each weekend. But it's Friday, Saturday, Friday, Saturday. So the next Friday home game is against the Brampton Steelheads. For tickets, you can visit LondonKnights.com. And so far, we do know, Kyle, as we switch to how Knights are doing in the preseason, Noah Reid has come back from the Anaheim Ducks, participated in their rookie tournament and looked really good. Alexei Medvedev played in a Vancouver Canucks blue and white scrimmage and was on the winning side of a 4-1 victory and impressed, but he has been returned. And so that leaves a few players. We can look. Henry Brustevich has played in 2 preseason games for the LA Kings. He actually played alongside Jared Woolley in the first game. So not bad. Maybe that's a defensive pair that the LA Kings use in the National Hockey League in the future. You're looking at a couple of draft picks who are going to know each other awfully well by the end of this next season. They know each other pretty well right now. So that takes place. You also have Easton Cowan, who has played in 2 games for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And Maple Leaf fans were pretty impressed because the Leafs went into Ottawa with a really young roster, took on a really veteran Ottawa Senators team, and won 4-3. Now remember, NHL players, they ramp up as the preseason goes along. Right. So, it's not 100% right now. They're just still getting their legs. Those preseason games really start to matter the deeper you go into the preseason. But if you can be doing things right now, as Easton Cowan did in the second, he did in the first game too. He was getting pucks deep. He looked really good. And then he has this no-look pass for an assist on a power play to Bobby McMahon in the second game that the Leafs and the Senators played. So, yeah, he's raising some eyebrows, as you would expect. Denver Barkey played for the Philadelphia Flyers. Oliver Bonk has been wearing a don't hit this guy jersey, a non-contact jersey. And so he hasn't been able to get into a game just yet, but Barkey played for the Philadelphia Flyers against the New York Islanders. Isaiah George has played a couple of games games for the New York Islanders, if we talk about a former London Knight. And then the question marks of the two Sams, Sam Dickinson and Sam O'Reilly. And I don't know, Kyle, who do we want to start with first?
I mean, let's start with, gosh, I don't know. Let's do Dickinson first because, God, like, I mean, what a performance. You know, he's the one that has the big question mark surrounding it because, of course, he is still just 19 years of age. He has eligibility to come back to the OHL and play for the London Knights. The problem is he looks too damn good in that teal. He looks unbelievable. Again, everything that we saw in London this past year, which led him to not only be a champion, but to be the CHL Defenseman of the Year. He's doing it with the San Jose Sharks. He had 2 assists in, I believe, his last game, Mike. You know, he's on the ice for most situations. I mean, they want to get a look at him because you look at the roster and you look at the defensive core and you go, Sam Dickinson can be part of that top 6. Like, that is not out of the realm of possibilities. I don't know what you had a chance to see from it, Mike, but you see his name pop up on the stat sheet. He's picking up assists. He's playing everywhere. I mean, he's putting as good of an effort as he possibly can to be starting in the NHL.
That's it. I mean, as much as we say NHL players, established NHL players are ramping up at this time of year, if you can be contributing right now, that's showing big things for you. That's exactly what you want to be doing as a young player. 2 assists in a 3-0 victory over the Vegas Golden Knights. It's a great place to start. And you also see him involved in a lot of their socials. Now, Sam got involved in a lot of the London Knights socials because Sam's just good on camera.
Yeah.
But Sam Dickinson involved in a lot of those socials. The Sharks are getting their fans to know him. That's not necessarily a guarantee, but sometimes it'll be, hey, is it okay to show this guy? Yeah, show that guy. We want,
show him.
We want our
seen a
fans
lot
to
of
get
them.
to know that guy. So maybe there's a little something to read in there. That's just us reading in. And then you've got Sam O'Reilly. And Sam O'Reilly played his first preseason game for the Tampa Bay Lightning. And Sam O'Reilly played 22 minutes, won 10 faceoffs, and scored on a deflection in front. If there was a way to start to show the Tampa Bay Lightning the kind of stuff that you can show, this, in my mind, Kyle, was it. And I still believe we're not going to see Sam O'Reilly right away. I really believe he's going to get a look from Tampa Bay. 10 face-off wins. That's incredible. That's what he's going to do for this team.
Not only that, but it's also just giving them a little bit more encouragement. Like, listen, we moved a guy in Isaac Howard who's going to be playing potentially in the top 6 with Edmonton. What are we getting out of the guy we got in return, which was a 1-for-1 deal for the former Hobey Baker Trophy award-winning player? And Sam O'Reilly goes out, plays 20-plus minutes, like you said, 10 face-offs. But the goalie scored. He's driving the front of the net. He's making his presence known. And then we know about his two-way ability to be able to go back and forth, play defensively, have really good IQ skills from, certain areas of the ice. And I said it before, I will say it again. It is very much a Tampa Bay Lightning fit back when they were really starting to ramp up into the team that they are today with all of those draft picks and those young kids. They taught them the right way. They taught them how to win championships. Well, Sam O'Reilly is now coming from a championship team in London and going to a championship organization with Tampa Bay. He does all the little things. He wins faceoffs. He's hard on the puck. You said it, Mike. He has one gear, and that's go 100% all the time. He is laser focused. There is no preseason mode for Sam O'Reilly. He is ready to rock and roll immediately. I think this is just going to work out so well for Tampa, and they got to be feeling really good about knowing the type of player they got out of him.
The other player with the London Knights, drafted by an NHL team who we're looking at for this year, is Linus Funk, and he has been reassigned to the London Knights from the Colorado Avalanche. So we'll see whether we see a Linus Funk debut in the next couple of games as the Knights get going against Brampton and Erie in their second weekend of the regular season. But yeah, the two Sams will be big question marks. And Kyle, you know that it takes going to the net to score in the NHL. Where was Sam O'Reilly's goal from? Right at the edge of the crease.
Yep, right there. And that's what they're looking for. He wasn't trying to do too much. He wasn't trying to prove that he had to fill in and fill these shoes that were left. He plays his game, and what his game was in London translates so well to the NHL level, and so much to what Tampa Bay has been orchestrating for 6, 7, 8 years now with the likes of Yanni Gourde and Tyler Johnson and Braden Point and all of those guys that were such fixtures for those championship teams, who eventually, like, they just became so good, like Tampa Bay couldn't afford to keep them. So what do? You go acquire and you keep developing those players to have that same trajectory. And that's what they're doing right now. And we saw it from Sam early in his career. And it's so much easier as a coach and a team when you know the player is so coachable and is willing to do what you need them to do and get the most out of them. And Sam is just so coachable. And again, I can't say enough good things about what he's going to be able to bring there. And just as a centerman, some of those guys, he's just going to slot right in. He's going to be in that top 9 before you know it, and he'll be a household name.
Well, we'll continue to watch the NHL preseason and how things unfold, and you can certainly watch Knight's socials and our socials for updates on when other players may be back. But as we look ahead, we're going to be talking about Brampton and Erie in a moment. However, we had a chance to talk with OHL Commissioner Bryan Crawford during the second intermission on opening night. He was at the game. He was part of the pregame ceremony. So here is our conversation on things like expansion, things like streaming, things like how the league moves forward, some of the things that we have seen in terms of players leaving teams and then other players coming into the league. So we talked about as much of it as we could. Keep in mind, this is before the glass breaking on Saturday. But here's our conversation with OHL Commissioner Bryan Crawford. Mr. Commissioner, welcome to a new season.
Thank you. Yeah, it feels like we were just in Rimouski yesterday. So yeah. The fact
so that feels like that to you because everybody else is saying the same thing. Didn't we do this last week?
Absolutely. The summer went by quickly, but really excited to be kicking off a new season. We have so many new initiatives, so many new things. It's it's great to be back at it.
Let's talk about one of the newest ones, Battle of the Border. Tell us.
Yeah, we just announced today we're bringing back the Battle of the Border, which is essentially a tournament featuring the top U16 teams from Canada against the top U16 teams from the United States. Going to take place next fall, so we're a year away from it. But next fall down at the WFCU Center in Windsor. This was a property that was around for quite a few years, and back in 2018. Was kind of the last time we did it. So, as more and more American players are, seeking to play in our league, and we're expanding, our footprint throughout North America, really important that we do more of that. And we're excited about, having this showcase that just kind of fits in line with the OHL Cup and, everything else that we're doing with the prospective players.
Tonight we're 2-0 for London after 2, and all kinds of players from the USHL contributing, the BCHL. Isn't it interesting? Do you have a little fun with the hysterics that go on? Everybody seems to be keeping this count. One for the NCAA, one for the CHL. I mean, and here we are, another 9,000 and a great product. And what CHL hockey is. This is the way it should be, Players should have these opportunities.
Yeah, without a question. I mean, there's certainly been a lot made of players that have moved on to the NCAA. But the reality is, we've had 7 players from the OHL leave before the end of their eligibility in our league.
7.
7. And we've had 112 join the league from other leagues that they wouldn't have played in our league previously. Never mind those that, were in the draft that may not have come to the league in previous years that were drafted this year, and that's on top of that 112. So the players are, unquestionably voting with their feet coming here. Do we want to lose, a notable player? Of course not. Of course not.
Right,
and
right.
we're going to have to work really hard to continue to retain those great 18 and 19-year-olds and make sure that this is the best place for them to play between 16 and 19. And then it's a great opportunity for our players and their families to not only be pursuing their NHL goals and aspirations, but for those that aren't quite there in their development to now be able to pursue NCAA opportunities. That's great. We celebrate the 60-plus players that we have in the NCAA now from our league last year, and those that are in our league this year that have NCAA commitments for the future. We are the best development in the league. We're the best development league in the world for everybody now.
We're talking with OHL Commissioner Bryan Crawford, and one of the other things is being able to showcase your league. And in joining Flow Hockey, take us through what that does to help showcase the product that you put on the ice.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tremendous step up for us in terms of the quality of the product, right? What that streaming platform offers from a user and fan experience that we didn't have in our previous, solution, which was OHL TV. And so, the features, the stats features, the in-game features, the frame rate, like people will notice logging on to Flow that the broadcast looks even better than it ever did. We're still partnered with all of our community broadcast partners to produce the games, and that's part of what makes our product look so good on broadcast because of the quality of that production team. And now added with all the in-game features, the stats component, Flow is they actually own League Stat, who does all our stats, so the integration of stats. And, for a value add, now our fans who are following our league and buying a subscription now get the opportunity to watch our alumni in the AHL. They get to see prospective players in other our development leagues across Ontario. So, it's a great new partnership, a 7-year partnership, the largest, hockey streamer that there is. And we're really excited. It also extends beyond just our games and our season to unique content, original content, and features that we're going to be producing going forward. So, the largest commercial partnership that we've done on the media side, and we're really excited about it.
Expansion? Are we going to see expansion in the next few years, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it is a topic of interest for us that we're pursuing, on kind of daily, weekly, monthly basis. These projects are ones that are also measured in years, versus weeks and months. And we're interested in opportunities on both sides of the border. And there's some really exciting projects that, we're working to get off the ground, both here in Ontario and on the U.S. side of the border. And, we've got that demand. We talked about the number of players that have come into the league. That's 3, almost 4 teams worth of players. We've got the demand that we want to obviously be able to provide those playing opportunities to kids and their families while being able to maintain a really high level of competition on the ice. And this year, the league will be deeper than it's ever been. I have no doubt that that'll be reflective in the draft, in the NHL draft in the springtime, with a record number of players. And, we're in a really great spot, and we have to make sure that we're proactive in ensuring that we're capitalizing on all those opportunities.
OHL Commissioner Bryan Crawford joining us. When you look at a lot of those players, a lot of fans are getting to know new names because those guys have come in. When you look at kind of the way the fans have been reacting to everything, are you sensing anything? Because you're starting a bit of a tour, as you will, around the buildings and being able to meet with people. What's the impression now that you've been able to be in some of these places and talk with fans?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much change that occurred last year and into this year, right? And it is still fairly tumultuous in many ways. And it's going to take a little bit of time to kind of sort out, to even out. But ultimately, I think that there's a really harmonious, relationship in future in our system that is going to make hockey better as a result. And, we need to get there. And we also need to dispel some of the way that people talk about it and what's actually happening. And as I said, what is actually happening is the players have overwhelmingly voted with their feet, have come to our league. Things will be different as we go forward in the future, but this league has never been stronger.
Bryan, really appreciate you taking the time. Thank you for the address at the beginning of the game. Memorial Cup on a red carpet on a black table always looks great. So
it's a great thing for our league.
Before you go, repeat those numbers. How many have come in? What's the balance on players from? It was 112.
Yeah, we've added 112 players from other leagues
who would never have been here.
That were, in the other leagues because they were going to pursue NCAA opportunities and those sorts of things. And they have come to our league because they know this is the best pathway for them to get there and potentially get to the NHL and other places. We've had 7 players that had eligibility remaining and have left before that eligibility extinguished. And we have, I believe it's about 60 players that are now in the NCAA this year that used up their eligibility and now have moved on to a great new opportunity. So it's all great for hockey and it's great for our league, and we're gonna compete to be even better than we are today as we go forward in the future.
OHL Commissioner Bryan Crawford. So really interesting to hear those numbers of players who have left the OHL prior to the expiration of their eligibility. 7. And yet you've got 112 who have come in. Now, Bryan Crawford did make mention that that's not going to happen every year. We are in that 2-year period. That's kind of the way people call it, where everything's shaking out. But now you're going to have players who are coming at 16 who maybe otherwise wouldn't, because now they can play at 16 and 17 in Major Junior and then still maintain that OHL eligibility. And Jim Van Horn made a great point on the broadcast this week, Kyle. He talked about the fact that you look at Beckham Edwards. Beckham Edwards has not set a date when he would be going to Notre Dame. He has not said, I will be attending Notre Dame for the 26-27 season. He plays for Sarnia. He's from London. I'm not saying I'm going to be there for 27-28. I will be there at the end of my Sarnia Sting career. So it leaves it open. And it wouldn't surprise me to see a lot of players doing it that way, where I'm not going to set a year. I'm just going to know that I'm committed to the Notre Dame Fighting Irish at some point. And by the way, a former Knights draft pick who played at Notre Dame and also played at Mercyhurst, Owen Say, goaltender, he wound up playing half a preseason game or a period of the preseason game for the Calgary Flames. So congratulations to him. So
okay,
Londoner going on and playing the NCAA route. He was a former Knights draft pick. And what do you know? He winds up now perhaps in the American Hockey League this year with the Calgary Wranglers, and with the way he played for the Flames, maybe he impressed, and maybe he is now on their radar for the future. So good on him.
You never know. It's funny just going back, Mike. It's players feel like they have a little bit more control now versus like when you're 14, 15, making a decision of getting drafted and where to go. It's kind of once you pick an avenue, you're kind of locked in and you're just crossing your fingers hoping. So I do really enjoy it. Like, this is going to be something that the leagues need to figure out as to how to either feel better about it or have maybe not more control, but just have an idea around. But I like players having options and choices because, yes, to some teams, it might unfortunately cripple them when some guys make the decision to switch from one organization or one league to another. But for the most part, we have to remember that these are teenagers, these are kids, and a lot of them, the majority of them actually don't make, the NHL. Some of them go on to play pro, but the majority of them, once they finish their major junior or their NCAA career, they kind of go back to whatever life has for them moving forward. So if it gives them an opportunity to move over and get an education, if it gives them an opportunity to come to Canada for something and maybe go to university or anything like that, I say I'm all for it for the players to give themselves the best opportunity, whether teams or organizations find a way to limit the amount of guys that can transfer. I don't know what the solution is, but I do really like that players get a choice and an option, because having a chance to go, get your post-secondary education while playing hockey and have that figured out, I think is much more important than, just a guy holding on for dear life, hoping he makes the National Hockey League or pro.
And not everybody is ready to hit certain development points at 15, 16, 17. Sometimes they need to be 19, 20, 21, 22 before that happens. And so this gives that flexibility as well, because Owen Say was born in 2001 and has had that development curve. And now it takes him to where he is, which is in a preseason game in the National Hockey League. Okay, when we're talking about teams that have been hurt by players leaving, we're talking about the Brampton Steelheads, losing Jack Ivankovic to Michigan, losing Porter Martone to the NCAA. This is what happened at the outset of their season. So this is a club that maybe is feeling it the other way a little bit more. They come in, but now what did they do in the offseason? They went out and they acquired a goaltender, an overage goaltender from Peterborough in former London Knight Zach Bowen. So I think the storyline coming in, because how many times do you see this? You have a former goaltender, Kyle, going up against his old team, and it is going to be tough to get pucks by Zach Bowen just for that reason. Goalies, for whatever reason, if they've got a reason to get up for something, explain this to us. How do you hit the heights where it's just, all right, this could be a game where you need 40 shots to score a couple of goals on a visiting goaltender?
Yeah, it's in the complex of, a revenge game. And I'm not saying that there's a revenge that, anything happened. I think what happened, the crease got too full. They had to move. There was a goaltender extendable. Zach Bowen was one of those guys. And, we've had a chance to talk to him numerous times, Mike. He's fantastic. He's great. But it's a chip on your shoulder, right? And then now you go see that team go back to the OHL final. They win a championship, and then they win the Memorial Cup. And then you make your return. And it just gives you a little extra something like, okay, you did it without me, watch this. And it's a proven thing. It's athletes have it all the time. It's anything that you can grasp on to like make a statement or to say, oh, you didn't think that I was good enough to be, watch this. And it's just a reason and something that all athletes do. And it's goaltenders in particular. And of course it affects the entire team, because if you can't score on them, you're SOL.
Brampton comes in at 1-1. They lost to the Peterborough Petes, Zach Bowen's former team. And then they turned around and beat the Niagara Ice Dogs 4-1. So that kind of stuff's going to happen in the preseason, where you think, how does a team do that on back-to-back nights? That's the preseason. And then, or the start of the regular season. And then the Knights will take on the Erie Otters, who they saw in the preseason a couple of times. So there is some familiarity between these two clubs, and they were two low-scoring games. You saw a 2-1 game and a 2-0 game. Do we see something similar this time around? This is in Erie. So the Knights go back to Erie. Last time they were in Erie, it took 2 overtime winners to win the game, because Casper Haltonen thought he'd won Game 4, and then ultimately Sam O'Reilly did win Game 4. So that'll be a moment that you remember from times in Erie forever. So we'll wait to see. Erie likes to bang on the glass too, so I'm not sure what will happen there.
How they feel about your statement earlier, but
I don't know. I don't think they'll like it very much. I don't think people who bang on the glass are going to like to be told not to bang on the glass. I'm going to think that's the solution. Just behind the benches. You want to bang on the glass? Get a seat in the corner. Bang away. Do what you need to do. But that's kind of how I see it right now. We'll see what the league decides in all of this. We'll have coverage on 980 CFPL beginning at 6:30 with the pregame show for both Brampton and Erie. And you can certainly get tickets and ticket information at londonnights.com. For the Knights, it'll be that minutes thing. And before we close out, we mentioned Rick Steadman. We talked to him very briefly about guys playing more minutes when you're not used to doing that and the adjustment that takes.
Just to get up to that level, to play that hard, it saps your energy. It takes a lot to do it, and shift in, shift out. Especially when we were down a few D, we had forwards back on D. We had guys going everywhere, and they did a great job jumping in and doing it. No complaints, knew what they were doing. So it's just a lot of thinking, and it's sapping your brain and your body energy at the same time.
As a player, you would do that. You could do that. You could go and play a shift on D. You could go and play a shift on forward. How do you adjust mentally to doing that?
You just try to keep it simple on both aspects. You know what you're supposed to do out there, and when you're out on D, you're just trying to make sure you keep the puck going, get it to the forwards, try not to get crushed behind the net or anything like that. And when you're on forward, you want to get in those right spots and be good outlets. But I always found that if you know how to play D, you know how to play forward, because you know, okay, the D needs an outlet here, so I better be there for him, and it just kind of opens up the whole game for you.
London Knights assistant coach Rick Steadman. So the adjustment of playing more minutes, that's what a lot of guys are doing. We're seeing adjustments now. We'll see what the next weekend brings. Kyle, looking forward to it.
Can't wait for it. Knights looking for that first win, of course, could come as early as this Friday. So make sure you grab your tickets, as Mike said earlier. And again, follow along with the podcast for any information, details, updates on everything. Just follow us on YouTube, the Night Shift Podcast, and then anywhere else you get your podcasts, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Chromecast as well. And then the Night Shift Podcast Instagram page. We're going to start putting a lot more up, interviews that we have with players throughout the course of the year, highlights, you name it, it will be up there. So plenty of content coming this year.
In fact, if you want to see that opening night video, if you haven't seen that yet, it's up there. So go and have a look.
It is.